Hello, today we have evening, the 9th of January in 22, and it is important. This is collecting and interpretation of puzzles, and I was first of all interested to find out, and I did it from time to time, if the internet would give new documents or new stories. And then in 2019, but even more later, I stumbled, and then I was perplexed because stories I did not believe. They were unbelievingly strange. And I did not experience them in full, but only heard and saw a little bit. So I thought it was abroad sometimes in foreign countries on travel through. And it was a time where I thought not that I was something special, but that people sometimes liked to have children or a child with them. And now I came across fairy tales, but those aren't funny because doctors interpreted my interpretations. They interpreted my interpretations, and those ideas I don't have, but they thought some of them were religious, and they thought that the combination, and in between there is a doctor talk, I don't know, they interpreted my character and my temperament, and this is the doctor's interpretation, of my trying to interpret. And I put it all together and asked for governmental input, because I thought if this would, and this is not sure, if this would point to this lady, then something would come out, but this is not sure, but I put it together. In the 90s, 1991, I asked for the descendants of my mother. And politicians explained to me, yes, it is known, she was in the diplomatic corps, in the diplomats' environment, and there they played the role of the character of aristocratic people. But I see the unwillingness to tell me how she was related to this lady. But I am sure she was related, because I found out she had too much insight. And she knew also about this boat. She even said, I once was with an engineer who wanted to go to a warship and make it into a travel vessel for noble families. And she said this one had a chimney that was not working. And then there came a man, and he said, this boat is towed again. It was stranded, and then it was towed again, got another name. And how did she go to know about this inside of the ship, the inside that was related to this lady? And politicians said maybe she was interpreting her role as being, but I thought and she did not say. She was under the strict obligation to be quiet because she was in the diplomatic corps, and she didn't tell me, and I couldn't tell myself. I was a child diplomat, but this was not explained to me. I was shown around as a child, and then it stopped, not totally, but it stopped at the age when I had to go to school. I had day-caring mothers. I don't know if I'm this child. I will show you about me a little bit more, because I was shown around, and I want to find out, because then it stopped. I was with a raising father. He is here working in our Schrebergarten, and this was a hobby gardening facility. And here I put it together like it would be in the papers. This is me. The photo is enlarged. It is enlarged, and this is from a photograph in my album, in my family album. And those are red eye effects. I do not have red eyes, but this is me. And it was a time when I had been here for some months. And this is the story interpretation. I could remember I was in a hospital, but it wasn't explained to me. Be glad the times are over and don't ask. We were a busy family. We grew our own vegetables. And it is, of course, to me, a story I can put together. I was there in a room, and the room was, it was somehow in my remembrance, a room where here there was the door, and I was lying in a bed. I don't know if here was a table or bed. I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what it was. And I think here was something as well. I don't know exactly, but I was lying maybe in this bed, and here were, I don't know exactly, I think 3 nurses, and I was so little they had difficulty to feed me. I was too little, and I can remember that one of them said she had children herself, and she was talking too much about me at home. So she got in trouble. I do not want to tell too much, but in this door there came from time to time a visitor. But some of them were not welcomed. And I can remember I was in this room then. I do not want too much. I was put in a basket. We traveled. I was set there, was found. I came to a room where the things found were put. There, this was the room. This is my imagination. The door maybe was here. Here was a table where all those things and my box was put. Then here was the table. Behind it was a shelf as well. Don't know exactly, but maybe here was a heating device. And when I had those dreams, it was said to me by my raising parents, those are only dreams. I wasn't thinking too much at that age, but when I got a little, in this age I forgot it altogether, because I was stopped thinking about it. and the others weren't interesting. This was a day, I think, when the day-caring mother was there. She wanted to take a photograph, and she showed me how to greet. I think she said, put your hand with this side to the front. I don't know if this was her way, how she had learned it. This photograph, it is the same as shown. My mother, later I learned I have two mothers or even more, the day-caring mothers also. And it was mixed up. There were strange things. And then I had to come to my earning money career. It was after the high school diploma. And there my mother couldn't raise money for me for my studies. And I was a little bit, not sick, but a little bit not with special care, too soon exhausted, you may describe it. I later learned a little bit to jog and to learn to grow into fitness. Maybe this was the age. I was a little bit fitter. This was when I was exhausted. Not very soon. There were always children being more sick than I was, but I wasn't the fittest one. This I already had shown. And then the story goes on. I can't show everything that I plan to show. It's only to raise awareness if someone is knowing. Maybe this, I think there was something in the papers to look for me, but I'm not sure. It was long gone, and I had three in the family. There were three others who were demanding, of course, as well. And then I put it together. There was the unknown place. The unknown place, there I was inside a hospital. There in a little room. Maybe it was this one. Here the door. I don't know if it went inside or out. I don't know exactly. This was my place. Then from that there was inside subway. Then I was found. I could whisper my name. I was brought back. The color was dark. Don't know exactly why. I cannot remember. I only remember that they were afraid my skin would be hurt by the process after. And maybe then, I don't know exactly, but I put it together as I remembered. This is not, this is from something else. Then there was, maybe here was one bed. Another, then I don't know, two. And then two, and here is a little bit space in between. This has to go a little bit out. The scale is not right. I could draw it better. Then I was in this bed, but maybe here was a wall. I don't know, this, in my imagination, this was an emergency room in the hospital. I was in this bed. Then in this one, then put on the table, put back. Here was someone being cared of by two who visited, bought books. Then here was talk between 1, 2, 3. A fourth came. And then I was one time put in this room. Maybe the doctors were, this was the doctor's room. And maybe here here was the chief nurse. Maybe where adoptions were talked over. Here was a room, and I don't know what this was. I could put it together, but those are interpretations or speculations. I hope this is recorded, because I do not want to go through it too much. Otherwise, I would then, where's my paper? Here's a block. I was inside the hospital, inside subway, and found again, maybe deliberately and so on. I could put it together, but I'm not sure. Then nurse, also inside, wieder inside. Nursery, I don't know, it's the EM, emergency, EM, what do you say, emergency, EMR. Don't know if it's an emergency room, I don't know, or infantry. And then inside, and then I was outside, maybe trying adoption, brought back, carried by a nurse, one of the four, but I think the second I had a priority list, I don't know exactly. Then came a policeman looking, but he was not finding me. I had a dress, don't know if the dress means a girl, and so on. Brought back, was with a lady. This room was, don't know, she had here a kitchen, and here was something like where you can put things on one side and open the door on the other side and give it through. And it was laying somewhere in the, don't know, cupboard, trunk, don't know exactly. Here was a door, I don't know, 100%, but imagine I was little. I was that little as shown on, maybe even littler, more, not, here I am, two, three, this can't be, this must be, it's strange, I have no picture before, but this is my remembrance. And I'm looking for, I do not want to tell too much, otherwise others could capture my story, because it was not believed, and I don't know where it was. It could have been something happening inside the country, and then this would be emergency remembrance. But I now came to the conclusion, because of the other things, that there must be something hidden. And I was out, and then it's not totally known. I was in the a nurse, I don't know, maybe this the first. She took me with her. I was in her apartment. Then my mother came, and she looked at me and said, "Yes, I think this is my child." And this was she, of course, younger at that age. And I think this gives her appearance. this is what I want to tell you about the time. I think it could have been, I could explain a little bit how I thought I was brought to the Netherlands first. And then there was a telephone to my mother, and she said, yes, I'm expecting him. Why was he brought to you? And there, I don't know exactly how it was. It's a country where things are a little bit smaller. The house had a kitchen, and there was, maybe this is a washing facility, the water facility. I don't know where the little bed was put. I don't know exactly. It was a kitchen. And there was a lady a little bit older and a younger one. And then I was there, I don't know how long, and then was brought to my older mother, and she had a younger as well. And later I learned, one said she had a scar because of my birth, and the other had carried me also, but why did she have a scar? So it was strange, and I was not told too much. I was curious, but I did not find out. And then I had many stories heard about the war. It was the 70s, and the war, of course, was not very pleasant to talk about. So I thought it could have to do with the war, but then in this time I thought life is difficult and I had to go through. But from 2009 onward, I came across things that made me wonder. And from 2020, 21, 22, and then I went deeper. I think it wasn't only because of the Day of Age, the spirit of the times, because of the wartime that was much before. This year is 1967, 1968, officially 1968. But I have remembrance before that. I can still remember that they said, you have to be registered. But when I then dreamt about it, they said, no, your remembrance must be wrong. And I don't know exactly why it wasn't told me. So what counts right now is the date in the official records. And this was from the wartime. That was desperate. And my military father, I expected him, my mother did also, he was left in the war. And this was a desperate time, and there's belief carried him through, and he was my role model. And he was, because I saw my mother holding him in highest regard. She was a mother, and in between she said, we had planned you. And then I had to earn money. She was an expert in foreign relations, and she worked in the international market business. She earned money in German, die Harmonisierung, die Normisierung von Geräten, international, Großgeräten. This was German. She worked in the bringing to standards of machinery or equipment internationally. This was not for much long, but she earned enough money that then they were able to bring me to the world, and this was planned between my father, and he is the father that was talked much about, and I was, of course, this is not him. This is not him on the photograph, or is it? He was a little bit older. This is my mother. I think, according to the stories, it must be her, or someone else did the same, or someone else did the same. This is a question. This is me at school time, but that was at the time when I was used to have relations, because I think, and I thought it all the time, this is the post in the international identity card, the post office card, the Postausweiskarte, the world identity card for the, ich denke, das ist der Weltpost, yes, it is the World Post Office company, and this is his photograph. I thought he had relations, and maybe my mother could build on it, but now I come to the conclusion it must be the mother herself. And this could be into a relationship where others took over her identity. Others could have taken over her identity. And if you see here, it's the emperor's family. There she talked about if she would know her. And I thought the teachers would tell the pupils at the day of age maybe so much about the empress that they knew her as a mother, I thought. She was not telling herself. So I never thought, and I think it is impossible to think about it, I still think, but technically I come to the conclusion she knew about her and how she raised her child. And then she was responsible for the group of young ladies who were the companions of the emperor's daughter. But then I learned that the daughter had to marry, and then she was married. And I think they had children, but my mother couldn't give children birth herself. Before the age of 20, she had an operation, an accident, but tissues were preserved. I don't know exactly when it was. And then is a gap. I don't know what happened between then. This must have been another country inside of Germany and another town. I don't know how she was related, because the known curriculum of my mother was Breslau. And there she was with Fritz, F.J.U, I abbreviated him, and he was with, and it is strange, they had planned to have a child, but if my mother really would be her, and she was pushed away by a bodyguard, there must have been a revolt. This is a theory. Had there been a story where there was a coup d'etat in then it could well be that my mother would be not the empress, but the duchess pushed away. When I asked officially, it was 1991, there's a question, I do not say it is, that she was the pushed away duchess. I asked it, and I had to put it together that people would read it. I asked it was said she was someone in German Hochstapler, and it was not said as a question, it was the knowledge of supposed intelligence, but I think it is not true. But she was at an age when I tried to do something as in German Nachfolgerecht, somehow in the diplomatic service. I couldn't do that because the grounds to build on were too weak. The grounds to build on were too weak. This is 1984. And then it was much later, and there she looked weak. And she was not allowed to tell, so I had no grounds to build on. And beyond that, my mother herself had the dream, I thought. I thought she had the dream. She was asking to be acknowledged or to have the part or the role or the character, I don't know. It wasn't said officially as Johanna and she was rejected because of DNA that was not as expected. And I think today this was knowingly, maybe knowingly, wrong. This was a trap. I now come to the conclusion it could have been recreational doctors. Recreational doctors who were at work. So I'm interested in my ancestry. This is not the most important, but it is very much now. Now it is. It must have been both from Hesse and somehow from Prussia. I don't know exactly how it was, and I'm not too much interested because it would give problems. Who has taken over the identity? This is Hesse. There had been a crash, a plane crash, and that plane crash looked similar. I don't know who this is. This is a civil line. A civil line this is. My mother said to me it was the custom to be raised to learn life in different families. So she was a guest for quite a time in different families. Was this a guest family or was it the real one? So she is my mother. I now come to the conclusion she was. But day-caring mother. And why? Once I went to school, I came back. He wanted to help me, but he was allowed because of cultural hindrances. And he was a piano teacher. I don't know. Why is this piano standing in the garden? This is from a photograph. It is around the corner. But of course, I'm not asking. He told me about difficulties. There are cultural hindrances. And I'm not running behind things. I know the so-called Indians had own regulations, and others had it as well. The Eastern Church had other regulations and other customs than the Western Church, speaking for the Catholic Church, and maybe in the evangelical circles there had been customs as well. This is me, happy in the holiday. But I wasn't happy all the day. This is only during sunshine. It was a difficult life. I'm not complaining, but now I'm looking back. And after this ordeal, after this ordeal, I'm feeling quite my father in a desperate situation. He wasn't officially the drummer. No, he wasn't. But why were talks about that? Is he that old? Is he that old? 30 years older than my mother? Was my mother born not, as officially recorded, 1904, but 1892? Then he was 30 years older, or even more. How come this wasn't communicated? It was the shift of days, the dangers of the old days. And as I said, I'm not urgently behind it, but now I want to know. So it is not the most necessity, but it is important. Is there the basic right to know where you came from? Think about it. He had been a duchess. Was there a revolt? Also in German eine Revolte, eine Palastrevolte, where one duchess was in her civil outfit in the town, and the others changed the guard and did not let her in again, and the real duchess was busted by police. There was a story told to me, and it was told about someone else as she said it. But could it well be she was telling me about herself because she was eager to know how I thought about it. And then she was wandering around, and the brothers of the aristocratic family were angry at the duchess and telephoned around to the other aristocratic houses not to let her in, to lecture her lessons. Is this possible? In 1922, I don't know, 23? Was it when they came back from Austria? I heard stories. Could it be that I heard them and they were not about us? It was the custom of my mother to help others. Was she someone who helped from the outside? If it was her, she was not allowed to tell about it. This could have been a custom of the aristocratic families to put people under oath. And I strongly had the idea my mother was under life threat, under an oath. But is it possible even 1991, 1992, official saying, it was oral, a pretender. And they said it was based on